Hi everyone, my name is Blakey, and in this video, I'm going to show you the best settings for Serato DJ Pro. I used to work for Serato for 7 years on their artist relations team, and I've helped some of the biggest DJs in the world with their Serato setups. Knowing and understanding these settings is crucial for any DJ looking to enhance their skills or performance. Getting some of these settings wrong can lead to poor sound quality, lagging audio, glitching audio, and it can just make beat matching a lot harder. So following this guide will make sure that your Serato experience is seamless. Stick around to the end of this video for the last tip, because this is one that I always use without fail. So the first setting that we're going to cover is the audio latency. Now this one is really important because if you get this wrong, it can lead to Serato skipping and lagging, glitching, and just not sounding great at all. And also if that happens to you, it's going to reflect badly on you. No one's going to look at you and think, oh, that guy's laptop is not quite optimized for the software. They're going to look at you and think that guy doesn't know what he's doing. So avoid this one. And this is how you avoid it. Go to the settings. And then under the audio tab, you've got the USB buffer size, or latency as it's known in Serato. Now you can go all the way down to 1 millisecond or all the way up to 20. The sweet spot here is 5 to 10. Now 10 or 5 milliseconds latency in regards to scratching is still almost nothing. It's almost unnoticeable. So do not worry that that number is significantly higher than 1 or 2. In reality and in practice, it's not going to make a whole lot of difference. The reason that you shouldn't have this at 1 millisecond is your computer has to be maxed out and extremely powerful for 1 millisecond to work without any potential issues occurring. Also, the difference between 1 millisecond and 2 milliseconds in terms of latency is basically nothing, but the difference on your CPU load is a lot. I tend to have this on 5 or 10. If you want to go down to 2, make sure that your computer is up to the task. I would say avoid 1, especially in a live setting, because you're kind of just asking for trouble. The headroom between your computer managing to cope with 1 millisecond and not managing is very small, so it's just too risky. If you're DJing at home and you want 1 millisecond latency for scratching at home, then by all means do it, but do remember before a live performance to put this back up to 2, 5 or 10. I'm going to leave mine at 5 for now because this is perfect. It's not going to put too much strain on my computer, but at the same time there's going to be almost zero latency. The next setting we're going to look at, if we go over to DJ preferences, it is under control preferences here, and it is lock playing deck. So if I uncheck this box and go back to the main window, if I was to play a song, because lock playing deck is unticked, it means that you can drag a song over that one, let it go, and it will start playing that song. Sometimes this can be good. If you're quite a fast DJ, it's a good idea to have lock playing deck unticked, because then you can just throw a song onto a deck very quickly without having to stop the deck. It just means you can mix quicker. The problem is you could accidentally load a song onto the wrong deck. And this has happened to me before. It's happened to most DJs, I think. By checking the lock playing deck box, it means that this will never happen again. So if I tick lock playing deck, come back here, play this song. If I load that song, it will not let me. And that's because the deck is locked. So I would recommend ticking this box, but just be aware that if it's unticked, you will be able to mix quicker, but you could potentially load the song into the wrong deck. So it's up to you, but I make sure that mine is ticked. The next setting is just underneath lock playing deck. It's enable hot cues. Now, if you have this unticked and then go back to the main window. So if I play this song right here, because enable hot cues is unticked, you can see that if I try and set hot cues while the song is playing, it will not let me. Now that's why I recommend having this box checked. That means that when you're playing a song, you can set hot cues on the fly as you wish. For me, this is a large part of the fun of using DJ software. So my advice is make sure that this box is ticked, and then you can set hot cues on the fly as you're DJing. The next setting is show beat jump controls, which is at the bottom of the control preferences right here. So with this unticked, if we go back to the main window, you can see that all of these numbers here, these are your auto loops. So if I play the track, if I press half, it's going to automatically loop half a beat. If I go back to the settings and tick the show beat jump controls box and then come back here, you can now see you've got 2 rows of numbers. Now the top row of numbers are your auto loops, and you can scroll through them here. So you can go all the way up to 32 and then go down. But now the bottom row of numbers are your beat jump controls. Now beat jump is one of my favorite features inside Serato. It's the kind of feature where if you've not used it before, as soon as you start, you'll never go back. So the way beat jump works is you choose the number of beats that you would like to jump backwards or forwards. So let's choose 16, and then you play the song, and then you can use this left or right arrow right here, and this will jump backwards 16 beats or forwards 16 beats. The best thing about it is that it is perfectly in time with the track. So the people on the dance floor won't miss a beat. You won't mess up anyone's two-step or anything like that. But it means that, well, there's actually quite a lot of use cases for beat jump. The way I use it most of the time is if I'm mixing dance music, I can glance at the waveform, and if one of the songs is coming up to a drop, but the other song is not coming up to a drop, maybe it's coming up to a breakdown, I can use beat jump to jump backwards or forwards on the song that I need to line up with the one that's coming towards a drop. And that way I can always make sure that two songs are going to double drop together. Or maybe you want two songs to go into the breakdown at the same time. Using beat jump means that very quickly you can use the beat jump controls to jump backwards or forwards in a track to line them up exactly how you want. Bonus tip with beat jump, on the DDJ Flex 4 with Serato DJ Pro, you can go to the beat jump pad mode right here, and then this button right here will jump backwards, this button right here will jump forwards, and then this button will go down in the beat jump value. So now it's at 4, now it's at 8, 16, 32, and then you can go down again. So with that beat jump pad mode, you can control beat jump inside Serato without having to use your keyboard on your laptop from pretty much any DJ controller. The next setting we're going to talk about is play from first cue point, which can be found under DJ preferences and under the on song load section. So on song load, you can choose to have Serato play from the first cue point. Now, if I uncheck this, come out of here and then load this song in, you can see that Serato starts playing it from the very beginning of the song file. Whereas if we eject that song and go back to the settings and tick play from first cue point, come out of the settings window, if I load that song, you can see that Serato has the playhead position exactly where the first hot cue is. In this case, the first hot cue is on the drop. So this is a really good way of making sure that Serato will have the playhead position set to exactly where you want it to be for any song that you load in. I've had this option ticked for years now, and I don't think I'll ever uncheck this one. It's very, very useful. The next setting is instant doubles. Now, instant doubles allows you to mirror what is playing on one deck on the other deck. And this can be very useful for a variety of reasons. So with instant doubles checked, if we come out of here, play this song, what we can now do is load the same song into the other deck, and you can see it's mirrored it. So it's playing at exactly the same speed at exactly the same point in the track. And this means that you can just go like that. And now I've got this deck free. Now, the reason this is useful on a DJ controller is, let's say that you're a scratch DJ and your dominant hand is your left hand. So you prefer to mix your songs in on this deck. Using instant double means that you can basically always DJ on your dominant hand. Instant doubles is also really useful if you're in a club environment and maybe one of the CDJs or one of the turntables is not working as it should be. Instant doubles allows you to DJ from one deck for the entire night. So there are times in your career, I guarantee, where you'll be DJing and instant doubles will come along and completely save your life that night. It's very, very useful. So I recommend keeping this one ticked. The next setting we need to talk about is analyze stems. So again, this is under the on song load section. Now, analyze stems should only be ticked if you have a pretty up-to-date and powerful laptop. I'm running an M1 Pro, which is probably about 3 years old now, but still plenty powerful. And because my laptop is powerful enough, having analyze stems ticked means that when I load a song into a deck, Serato is already pre-analyzing the stems in the background, so that if I play the song and then go to stems, I can just turn the stems buttons off and Serato immediately starts playing those stems out. It's basically a very useful performance tool, because if I think all of a sudden, you know what, I want to take the bass out of this, or I want to take the drums out, you can do that at the press of a button. If you have analyze stems unticked, it means that when you start using stems, your computer is then going to start doing the work to analyze those stems so that you can start using them. So if you have an older computer or an underpowered computer, I recommend having this unchecked. But if your computer is a powerful MacBook Pro, M1, M1 Pro or above, you can tick this box and you shouldn't have any issues. So you can see here, I've just ticked the box. It says analyzing stems on song load will speed up stem playback time, but will increase computer load and may have a performance impact. So choose wisely, maybe play with having this ticked at home, try it out, see if your computer can handle it. If it can, leave this ticked. If it can't, maybe uncheck this and maybe use the stems folder inside of Serato for all of your stems use. The stems folder allows you to drag songs into that folder and it will pre-analyze the stems so that when you start using those stems during your DJ set, there will be no performance impact on your laptop. So there are lots of options to use stems safely, and it all depends on how powerful your computer is. So choose wisely. The next setting we're going to look at is the sync mode settings. Now, I could do a whole video on sync mode alone, but I'm actually just going to advise that you leave this, if indeed you do want to use sync, leave this on simple sync and make sure that snap to beat grid and maintain sync on track load are checked. Let me show you how sync works in this mode. So with 2 songs loaded, let's play this one. If you have this one playing and I was to press sync, you will see that it will snap the BPM of the song on the left deck to match the BPM of the song on the right deck. It also snapped the beat grids together as well, so that both tracks are playing perfectly in sync according to the beat grid. This setting does mean that you have to have your beat grids aligned correctly. If you don't use beat grids and you don't edit your songs to make sure the beat grids are correct, then you can go back to the settings and uncheck the box that says snap to beat grid. That way, all it will do is snap the BPMs together and nothing else, which can also be a very good and advantageous way of using sync, because that way you can still mix it manually. Nudge the song forwards or backwards to get it in time, and you still get all the benefits of the BPM sync and not having to move the tempo slider to get the songs at the same BPM. So with these 2 songs playing, they're playing at the same BPM. Now let's say I've just mixed into this song. So now that we've mixed out of that track, if I was to load another song onto the other deck, you can see that it has automatically synced the tempo of the song we've just loaded to the song on the other deck. This is because we have maintained sync on track load ticked. I leave that option ticked all the time because it just makes using sync on controllers and CDJs so much easier. So I recommend having this ticked, but play around with sync and just see what works for your own DJ style. So the next setting is for all of the vinyl users out there. If you use turntables and vinyl DVS with Serato, there is a setting which will make the BPM, whilst you're playing vinyl with Serato, it will make the BPM lock and not drift with the natural wow and flutter of a turntable. So if you go to CD vinyl and then under vinyl control, tick anti-drift. And this means that when you're playing a song with Serato vinyl DVS, the song will wow and flutter for maybe 5 to 10 seconds. And then if you just leave it alone, it will lock the BPM to a consistent number. And this can be very, very useful for those long blends when using turntables. So if you're a turntable user, I highly recommend keeping this one ticked. Now let's head over to Library and Display, and let's take a look at some of my favorite settings inside this window. So you've got EQ Coloured Waveforms right here under Display. Now, with this unchecked, you can play a song, and then when you adjust the EQs on your DJ controller, the colors of the waveform stay the same. Now, on a waveform in Serato, red means bassy, low end, blue means high trebly frequencies, and green and yellow mean mid-range frequencies. So if I go back to the settings window and tick EQ Coloured Waveforms, you can now see that when I adjust the EQ on my controller, the color of the waveform will change to correspond with how the song now sounds after it's been EQ'd. So As I said before, red means bassy frequencies. If I take the bass out, all of those red frequencies have gone. So this is actually really useful for getting a visual representation of what the song will sound like after you've EQ'd it. So maybe have a play around with this setting and see if it matches your DJ style. Heading back to the library and display settings, you've got enable play count. Now with this ticked, you can go back to your Serato library. And then if you right click the columns here at the top, you've got plays right here. So if you make sure that's ticked, you can then see how many times you have played each song in your library. This is actually a very, very useful feature, and it was a feature that was asked for by DJs for many years, and Serato brought it in a couple of years ago, and people were very happy that it was finally there. I've spoken to some DJs and found out how they use this feature. Some people, what they do is they sort their entire library by the amount of plays that each song has had, and then at the end of a year or 2 years, they'll just delete anything that they haven't played in that 1 or 2 years. It's quite a brutal way of using it, but actually it's a really smart way of making sure that your library is streamlined. Because if you think about it, if you've not played a song in your library in the last 2 years, does it really need to be there? So this is one that you should probably just leave on all the time, and it will give you a reference for how many times you've played each song in your library. Next, let's take a look at the effects tab right here. Now, there are quite a lot of effects inside Serato, and if you do use the effects in Serato, this is where you can choose the ones that you do use. So let's go for echo, and you can click add, and it will move it over to the favorite effects. Let's add some more. Let's add phaser, flanger, and bit crush. And now what you can do is you can tick the box here that says use favorite effects list. And now if I come out of the settings, click on effects, you can see that when you choose the effects drop down to choose the effects that you're using, you can only use the ones that are in the favorite effects list. This is a great way of just streamlining the number of effects you see, because there can be loads, and this way you don't have to scroll through all of them to get to the one you want. And finally, this setting I use all the time without fail, and I would be lost without it. So let's go back to the settings page. Under library and display, you've got custom crate columns. If this is unchecked, it means that if you go into a playlist, so right here we're on Beatport, if I was to go into the Afro House playlist and then sort by artist, if I then go to Bass House is also sorted by artist. But let's say I wanted the Bass House playlist to be sorted by BPM. Well, now if I go back to the Afro House playlist, that's also sorted by BPM. So there is a way around this. If we go back to settings, tick custom crate columns, that means that I can go to the Bass House playlist, sort that by BPM, and then go down to dubstep, but I want dubstep to be sorted by key. Now let's go to Afro House, and I want that to be sorted by artist. That way, each playlist is sorted exactly how I want them to be, and Serato will remember how you've sorted that playlist. So the next time you open up the software, it's laid out exactly how you want. I could not be without this setting. I'm very happy it's there. Thank you, Serato, for making my life easier with that one. If you're interested in learning how to DJ with Serato, click the link in the description for a free lesson from us at Crossfader. So that covers my best settings inside Serato that you need to know about to make sure that everything runs smoothly and you don't run into any issues when you're DJing. Some of these settings are crucial to understand to make sure that everything works smoothly, but some of them are just personal preference. So everything that I've covered, I would recommend trying them out and just working out what works for you and your DJ style, because the sync mode that I use that works for me might not quite work for you. So do some digging, do some experimenting, and just figure out what makes your life when DJing with Serato that bit easier. It's also important to do some testing and experimenting at home with your DJ setup after you adjust some of these settings, especially things like the sync modes and the audio latency settings, because these settings are critical to understand and get right before you start going out and DJing in the world, because these are the settings that could really trip you up if they're not done correctly. So adjust them, test them at home, make sure that everything runs smoothly and that you're comfortable using those settings before settling on them and going out and DJing. Tweaking and optimizing some of these settings is crucial, so preparation is key. I really hope you learned something from this video. If you want more Serato content, click this link right here.